everyone, it's Liz here from Quality Estate Agents, here today to just answer a few common questions that buyers may have. So this video will be useful to anyone who's thinking of buying a home, maybe you've started looking, or maybe you're going through the process currently of buying a home. So these questions might help answer a few questions that you have. So the first question, what are the first steps when buying a house? Now, the first steps I would say is finding out how much you can afford. Go to a reputable mortgage advisor and find out how much you can lend on your next house or maybe your first house. Make sure you have your decision in principle ready and sufficient funds in your bank account. Without this, your offer won't be accepted. Now, if you've got to sell before you buy, then 90% of the time, estate agents won't even let you view properties until yours is on the market, which means you've got to get yours valued and on the market before you can even start looking and viewing properties. And be aware that no estate agent will accept an offer until your property is under offer. What should I look for when viewing houses? Now, there are lots of things to take into consideration when viewing a house, and a lot of the time you go into the house and you've got 15 minutes to look around and everything's a bit overwhelming, it's a bit too much, and you walk out of the property and you start talking to your other half or your friend or your parent, and you think, oh, I don't even know what age the boiler is, or oh, did we find out how old the electrics are, or oh, I wasn't sure if my bed would fit into the room, and things like that. So it's important to have all these questions ready before you go. Maybe write them in your notes on your phone or take a little notebook with you with the questions so you can ask the estate agent at the end. There are also quite a lot of common things to look out for when viewing a house, such as damp. Stoke-on-Trent is quite common to have a damp in a lot of houses. So any flaky plaster or watermarked walls is a sign of damp. Make sure you look near the ceiling, around the skirting boards and around any chimney breasts for signs of damp. A few important questions to ask, sort of, how old the boiler is, what type of boiler it is, does the boiler come with any certificates, when was the last time the boiler was serviced, when were the electrics last updated, how old is the roof, and is the attic insulated and boarded. My favourite question to ask, which I think is such an important question and not many people ask it, is what are the neighbours like? It's really important to know what your neighbours are like, what do they do for a job, or, do they have any kids, do they have any pets? The last thing you want to be is moving into a property and, having nightmare neighbours next door. The seller will obviously know this, and the estate agent should know this too. You also need to make sure when looking around that just take the sizes into consideration, make sure the house is big enough for your wants and needs. How do I put an offer in and when? Offers are simple. You've viewed a property, you've had a look around, you've come away from the viewing and you think, yeah, this is the one for me. It's simple. You ring up the estate agent and put your offer in. If you're dealing with an online agent, then it might be a little bit different. You might have to go online and input your offer through to their website. But again, the estate agent should tell you this at the viewing, or you should get a brochure or a pack with the details on to call and make your offer. There's no right or wrong time to put your offer in, just when it feels right for you. If you viewed the property and you think that's the ideal property for you, then put your offer in as soon as possible. The last thing you want to do is be waiting around and then ringing up and finding out it's just gone like an hour ago and someone else has already put the offer in and beat you to it. What happens if there is numerous offers? Now, this is a common thing that's happening at the moment, especially in the current market that we're in. There are a number of ways an estate agent can deal with numerous offers. One way they can deal with it is by putting everyone in a bidding war. So if the estate agent has got quite a few offers, what they'll do is they'll take everyone's initial offers and then they'll keep going back to each person until they reach the maximum offer that they've got. Another way to deal with it is asking for everyone's full and final offers. This means you won't actually know what the other people have put in, and it'll just be up to you to sort of I always just say, just put what you think the house is worth, what it's worth to you, or put your maximum in, just what feels right for you, really. And another way to deal with it might not be to do any bidding wars or any full and final offers. It'll just be to take whatever offers they've got, forward them on to the vendor, and the vendor will decide from then. Now, I always think when you're viewing properties, it's important to know what the estate agent is going to do. Every estate agent is different and they all conduct business differently. Some estate agents might prefer the bidding style type way of conducting offers. Other estate agents might prefer the full and final offers, and other estate agents might not even get involved with any of that, and they might just have the offers and forward them straight on to the vendor. So it's important for you to know what's going to happen. So when you're at the viewing, if the estate agent is showing you around, ask them how they're going to conduct business. They might say to you, yeah, we're going to be asking for everyone's full and final offers, and then to sort of put a lower offer in to start with. Or if you know it's going to go to a bit more, then you'll probably start at a lower offer and then work your way up. When will I get the keys to my home? Now, believe it or not, some people don't realise how long it may be until they get the keys to their home. You'll get the keys to your home on completion day. That might not be first thing in the morning, it might not be in the afternoon, it might be, in the, say, just before 5 o'clock. It depends how long it takes for that sale to go through on completion day. If you're in a chain of, say, 10, then and you're at the top of the chain, the money has got to go through 10 different transactions until you've received the money and the keys can be released. Now, you'll know when the keys can be released because the solicitors will usually inform all parties that completion has taken place and keys can now be released. You should get a call from your estate agent asking you to pop down into their offices to collect the keys to your new home. What solicitors should I use? This is a very common question that we get asked, and it's a very important question to be answered. Solicitors are crucial in the sale process, and if you choose the wrong solicitor, it could cost you months of the sale, and it could even cost your sale to fall through. So it's important you choose the right solicitor and not just go for the cheapest solicitor. Your estate agent may know a good solicitor that they can recommend to you, and a good way I always say of using good solicitors is by looking at Google reviews and try and choose a smaller solicitor, not a big solicitor that is very busy and has lots of transactions going through. Should I get a home buyer's report? Now, this question is tricky and it really does depend on the house you are buying. Home buyers reports are a lot more common at the moment due to mortgage lenders doing desktop valuations, which, as we know, aren't really sufficient. They aren't visiting the house, they're just looking at the advert online and making a valuation off of that. It's not a thorough report. They don't look into the loft, they don't look on the roof, they don't do any of that. So if there is an issue, you're not going to find it out with a desktop valuation. However, if you're quite savvy to know what you're looking out for on viewings and you've been to visit the property a few times, then I'd say most of the time you've got a good gauge on what the property is like and what work is involved. Home buyers reports are a good way of knowing exactly what needs to do to the property and if there are any issues. However, I will say you have got to take home buyers reports with a pinch of salt. We have had some reports in the past which are very contradicting and they can put a lot of people off. For example, one home buyers report that we had advised the client that there were no Japanese knotweed at the property, but they still advised the client to take out Japanese knotweed insurance for £200. This just immediately put the buyer off and he pulled out. He was terrified at the mere thought of Japanese knotweed and a few other costings that they put in, which in my opinion wasn't really needed. So you have got to take home buyers reports with a pinch of salt. And again, it depends on what type of house you're looking at. If it's an old house, a brand new house, or maybe it's a house that requires work and you already know what needs doing on that property. The difference between a home buyer survey and a building survey. Now, a building survey is a lot more thorough report than a home buyer's report, and it's sort of built on an easy to read traffic light system. It's a lot more in depth and informative than a home buyer's report, and obviously it costs a lot more money. In my opinion, I think a home buyer's report is sufficient enough, but that's just my opinion. It really does depend on the house you are buying in all fairness, and it depends on what you want. If it is you want a thorough report and everything included, then go for the building survey. Do I think it's needed? In most houses, I'd say 90% of houses don't really need building survey and a home buyer's report is more than sufficient enough. How long will it take for the sale to go through? Now, I would say in your best case scenario where you've just got an easy transaction between the buyer and the seller, and there's no chain involved, and you are looking at 3 to 4 months in today's current market. If the market goes back to normal, and I'd say you're usually looking at 2 months' time. If your transaction is a bit more of a lengthier process, i.e. you've got a large chain involved, then you're probably looking anywhere between 4 to 5 months, maybe even longer in a worst case scenario. You've got to think how it works. You've got the buyer that looks for the house under offer, the seller then has to look for a house, and then that seller then has to find a house. So it can sort of be a bit of a longer process than an easy, straightforward sale, which is why a lot of people try and avoid the chains. However, a lot of the times they are unavoidable. And yeah, that's it. That's all questions answered. If there's a few questions that I've missed out, you think that maybe you've got a question for me, then feel free to drop us a message or give us a call. I'd be happy to answer any questions you've got throughout the buying process. Okay, thank you. Bye.